Bumbleberry Cobbler. Now this involves a sweet biscuit topping, kind of crunchy on the top and almost cake-like underneath with the fruit. And bumbleberry isn't actually a type of berry, it's a mix or a jumble of berries, whatever happens to be in season. But instead of just using berries, you want to have a little bit of fresh pear or even apple, because if you cook just berries into a cobbler, they'll collapse into virtually nothing. The pear absorbs the juices, the color, and the flavor and gives your cobbler structure. So I'll add my 4 cups of fruit. Now I have some berry jam, and you really can be flexible here. Any type of berry jam you have on hand. I'm looking for about ½ a cup, but the idea is instead of adding granulated sugar, I'm just going to use the jam to sweeten the berries, but also the pectin within the jam helps thicken the sauce a little bit. And just add a splash of vanilla. And you're just looking to coat the berries. Try not to mash them up too much. They will bake down. There we go. And now I'm ready to put them in the dishes. I've got individual ramekins here, and you really can use just about any type of vessel you wish. All right, now these are filled, I'm ready to make the cobbler topping. I'll start with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And since I'm making a biscuit, not a cake, you don't need to sift your ingredients. 3 tablespoons of sugar. A 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'll just give this a little stir with my fingers. And I've already cut up 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. It's not ice cold from the fridge. That way it's easier to work in with my hands. First I coat them, and then I start squishing them into the flour a little bit. It should be an even crumbly texture. There we go. All right, now I'll get the wet ingredients ready. What I like about all these desserts is that they tend to be made with ingredients you have on hand, like 6 tablespoons of milk. So that would be 3 ounces. And then since I only put 3 tablespoons of sugar in the dough, I'm gonna add a little added sweetness with 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, a single egg yolk for a little richness, and just a teaspoon of vanilla. And just blend that together, and I add it all at once to the bowl. You might find if you've made scones or biscuits before that this is a little softer than your typical scone dough, which you would roll out and cut into wedges. This is why it's more on the cakey side, less on the flaky side. And then I'll just use my spatula, and you want to dollop your bits of cobbler topping on. So you're not looking to completely cover the fruit. You want to allow room for steam to escape, just like so, because this will expand a lot as it bakes. I definitely call this family of desserts rustic, which is why you can't be afraid to get your hands in there a little bit. There we go, that is just the right amount. And the finishing touch before this goes into the oven is just a little sprinkling of sugar right on top. That just adds to that crunch on top of each cobbler. So when your spoon goes through, it cracks through the top, breaks into the cake, and then discovers the gooey fruit underneath. Beautiful. Now this is ready for the oven. It takes a hotter oven, 375, and I give it about 30 minutes to bake, and it'll turn a nice rich golden brown on top. Oh, beautiful. And it's amazing. It's such a familiar and comforting smell, but completely different from that apple crisp. It's all about the berries and the vanilla and even the buttery biscuit topping. Now, what's important is to check the doneness. Just break between a couple of the cobbler droplets. And when you see it's cakey all the way through to the bottom, oh, and look at those beautiful juices, then you know it's perfectly cooked. And because the dish is hot, I want to put it on a saucer. Just like the apple crisp, it is best to let this cool for about 15 minutes before you eat it. Oh, look at that, absolutely delicious.